Okay, good evening, good morning, good afternoon. Another chapter, babasahin natin kay Mr. Dennis C. Act Like a Man, Taking Manhood Back. On the previous video, may bahagi natin chapter 8, titled Man Up. Ngayon, chapter 9, titled The Man Leads. Bear with me, brothers and sisters, kasi mahaba-haba yung babasahin natin. Ganito kakapal. Okay. Chapter 9, The Man That Leads, or The Man Leads. Psalm chapter 8, verses 3 to 6. When I consider your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars, which you have set in place, what is mankind that you are mindful of them? Human beings that you care for them. You have made them a little lower than the angels and crowned them with glory and honor. You made them rulers over the works of your hands. You put everything under their feet. We are called to lead. God positioned, equipped, anointed, and empowered men to lead. Why? That I do not really know. But what I do know is that we are given a mandate by our King to lead the people or to lead the people God has entrusted to us. My wife Tammy has been reading the book First Things First by Stephen Covey. I think the title is a good reminder for us to do the things that only we can do, and reminder for us to do the things that only we can do, and lead where God has called us to lead. I always tell myself that only I can be the husband to my wife and the father to my children. The other things I can delegate. The same goes with Tammy. Though I pastor the church, she is not the pastor's wife. She doesn't get any salary to play the role. Her only roles are to be my wife, the mother of my children, and to make disciples as a believer. If we focus on who we are, it makes us say no to things that might look important, but in reality are not. I am called to lead my family as a man. I cannot delegate that responsibility. I cannot ask my best friend to lead my wife or my children's church pastor to the father or to father my children. There are some things only we men can do. Do not delegate them. Step up to the plate and lead. What are the things that only you can do? As we live out our roles, or as we live out the roles that only we can do, it makes our marriage more exciting, our work more fulfilling, and it greatly reduces the stress. There was a time in our marriage when I almost forgot that I had a wife. It was during a long season when my leadership in church was stretched. There were endless meetings, more people to counsel, and messages to preach. And though it seemed like a noble cause, pastoring a church, I started to neglect what was important in my life, my family. At that time, a good friend, Paulo Punsalan, who was pastoring one of the biggest Victory congregations in Metro Manila, talked to me about how he made a decision to be home 4 to 5 nights a week. He told me that he had to deliberately make a choice between always being at work or spending time with his family. After the talk, it actually made sense. If Paulo can pastor a church of more than 10,000 people and be home 5 nights a week, then why can't I be home and be with my family when I was pastoring a smaller church? It wasn't really about the weight of the work, it was a question of who was more important, my work or my family. There were two options: continued with work and help save the world, while I lose my marriage and family in the process, or cut down on some hours at work and save my marriage and my family. And at the same time, be a good example of believer, leadership, and manhood. The problem with the first option starts when we believe the idea that God cannot make it work without me. God cannot make it work without you. It is what we men usually do. We find our identity in our work and in the status we get from a job well done. When God told Noah to build the ark and save the people who wanted to go with him, God made sure his family was on board. To save the world, he had to save his family first. So, in light of my predicament, Tammy and I made a decision to reset our priorities because it was taking its toll on my marriage, my time, and my health. Here are things we decided. First, one date night every week. We have improved on this by adding that our dates should not be just watching movies or eating out, but we also take the time to communicate and connect with each other. Second, we can be away from home only 2 to 3 nights a week. This means I will go home for dinner 4 to 5 times a week and tuck my children into bed. Third, Tammy gets a, Tammy gets a say in my schedule. That means she knows my schedule and has the right to say if work is taking too much of my time. When you do this, you include your wife in your life. I love how Jim Burns said it. The key is not to prioritize what's on your schedule, but to schedule your priorities. Is it still a work in progress for both of us? How about your marriage? Are there some priorities you need to reset? C.S. Lewis said, when first things are put first, second things are not suppressed but increased. To lead is to take risks. Taking a risk requires courage that only Yeshaya can give. One of the biggest risks I took was marriage. Not because Tommy was hard to live with, but because I didn't know what the future would hold for us. All I knew was that I was going to marry this girl, continue my work as a pastor to provide her for her, make babies, and change the world. But to say I was trained for what was in store was wishful thinking. I had to decide to take the risk. I had to decide to go a little farther each succeeding day. It meant being not afraid to fail and accepting any failure as part of the risk. I am reminded of how we should be like Hernando Cortes, the great Spanish explorer who dismantled his entire fleet upon reaching his destination, landing at present-day Veracruz, Mexico. He destroyed his ships so that when the going got tough, his men would have no means to retreat. It was do or die trying, no going back, only pressing on. After dismantling their ships, each man, as Cortes reports, then had nothing to rely on apart from his own hands and the assurance that they would conquer and win the land or die in the attempt. Men, it's time we dismantle our ships. Let's move forward. To risk is to fail sometimes. Don't feel failure, not failure but low aim, is the crime. In great attempts, it is glorious even to fail, by Bruce Lee. Admit it, everybody fails. I fail. People I look up to have failed in life. Great men fail. Even those who are very careful not to fail, fail. Just the act of not trying is already a failure. As men whose God is the Lord, don't ever aim low. It is a sin not to step out in faith. Remember that the road to success is often filled with failure. Failure makes our faith in God more real. It shows us that we need to have faith in someone bigger than us. bigger than all of us. God. Attempt great things for God. If we aim high but hit lower than the goal, then it is okay. But aim low, and even if you hit the target, you will know that you could have done better. I don't know if you can live with that. I had the man approach me about his work once. He is great at his work, but his salary did not reflect his art. He was aiming low. He could actually be really great if he attempted greater things. But the temptation to be normal, boring, and average was sweet. However, the problem with that is that you only achieve a little. Have you ever seen a happy person who has always played it safe? Failure is the baby step to fulfilling your God given dreams. Innovation guru David Kelly said, "Fail faster, succeed sooner." Mark Twain said something similar when he said, "20 years from now, you will be more disappointed by the things you didn't do than by the ones you did." Michael Jordan, the most successful basketball player who ever played the game of basketball, has this to say when it comes to success. "I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game winning shot and missed. I failed over and over and over again in my life. That is why I succeed. Winners try and fail. They risk and they fail. They try and they win. They risk again and succeed. You can't live your life afraid of failure. It is the part of the process of success. To not try is to decide to fail already. It means living your life full of what ifs. Learn from your mistakes. Learn from your experiences. Do not despise the days of failure. Make it your goal this year to aim higher. Trash mediocre goals. Embrace greatness. Many men settle for being gun collectors. They clean the guns, polish them, look at them for hours, and play with them inside their homes. But they never get to use a gun. A soldier, on the other hand, uses his gun all the time. Ask yourself these questions. Do I live to survive? Do I live to work? Or do I live for adventure? As men, we are not called to live in survival mode or to just work to our death. We are called to live an adventure. Don't you notice our fascination for adventure? From movies to our insane imagination, we always see ourselves living in an adventure. You actually have a choice to make that a reality. Now, today, according to Hugh MacLeod, some live from paycheck to paycheck. Some live from project to project. I prefer to live adventure to adventure. As men, we cannot be gun collectors. We cannot just look at our gun and know our responsibilities. We need to go to war. We need to get dirty. We need to lead, fight for, and protect our family. Some men know what is right and wrong, but they never put the principles into practice. You can read all the manhood books and marriage books, but if you are not applying the principles you're learning, you are just a gun collector. Action is what separates soldiers from gun collectors. I love how one of my mentors said that people who go the extra mile get the extra mile result. I think it is that simple. If you work harder, perform better than your opponent, offer something more excellent and more unique, people will actually see it and reward you for it. It works in almost everything. I work with a lot of single people. Most of them go through the same problems in their work. Finances, excuse lang ba? Finances, careers, and leadership. But what makes one achieve more than the other? The one who achieves more wants it more. They take the time to hang out with successful people and ask them questions instead of watching too much TV or playing games. They read books and strive to improve themselves. They live their lives trying to achieve their goals, while others do their usual routine every day but are surprised when they don't get different results. The great NBA legend Larry Bird was known to come to practice 1 hour before everyone and leave the practice floor 1 hour after everyone had finished. That's working hard twice. Leadership is going the extra mile. It is making the extra phone call to another client or writing another chapter of the book you have been planning to publish. It is mentoring a person beyond the required hours or the extra customer service that makes it a real satisfying customer service experience. Do you really want it bad enough? Then it's time to do something about it. Pastor Mark Driscoll of Mars Hill, Seattle. Sorry, ang katilang na mata ko. Pawing ako. Shares in one of his sermons about reverse engineering your life. Reverse engineering simply means starting with the desired end result and then identifying the steps needed to get there. Stephen Covey coined it as beginning with the end in mind. I always challenge men to be prepared in these three areas. 1. Spiritual preparation. 2. Leadership preparation. 3. Financial preparation. Give me a store clerk with a goal, and I'll show you a man who will make history. Give me a man without a goal, and I will show you a store clerk. By Kathy Truitt. You need to have a game plan if you want to achieve something significant in your life. Most of the time, we focus on the wrong things. We make major plans on minor things. A classic example is weddings. I love weddings. I love a well-planned wedding. But if you are not going to have a plan for your marriage, no matter how great your wedding day is, the marriage is going to crumble. We put too much energy on the day itself that we forget to build on what lasts longer. Another example is our skills. We make plans to get a job but not upgrade our skills. Because we don't have a game plan for life, you stay stuck and content with where you are, so you never improve. Then you wonder why you never get promoted. You have to understand that promises are no substitution for preparation. A lot of men promise their way into a relationship. Some make really some make really ridiculous promises, like giving their beloved the moon and the stars, but they can't even afford to pay for their dinner date. It is so easy to make a promise. However, promises that are fulfilled are often done with intense preparation and planning. Commit to prepare for life before you prepare to commit to marriage. I remember talking a friend out of marriage. Or I remember talking a friend out of marriage. I rarely do this, but this was indeed a rare case. My friend, who at that time was getting married in a few months, still had a lot of issues in his life. He was under depression and taking medication to suppress the depression. Both of them were in a bad financial situation, and most of all, both of them were habitually fighting, cursing, and generally disrespecting one another. Out of love, I had to tell it to them straight. You are not prepared for marriage. There were too many red flags. I told them to pray about it and seriously consider not pushing through with the wedding. After a few weeks, I get a call from both of them, and they had decided that they would push through with the wedding. I was curious and asked why, and they said it because they had already sent out the invitations and they would lose face if they canceled the wedding. What? You mean to say that just because the invitations were sent out, you will still push through with something that is highly problematic and stressful? And then they drop these five words. But we love each other. Brothers and sisters, it takes more than feelings of love to decide whether or not you are not going to enter into marriage. You need active preparation, not just for your wedding day, but more importantly for your marriage. My friends were ready for the wedding day, but they were not ready for marriage. Sad to say, in less than a year, they separated ways. Naghiwalay. Because, aminin naman natin o hindi, yun kasi yung nagiging stumbling block. Yung ah, komento ng iba. Although, sabi dito sa storya ay hindi daw, sabi ni Dennis, na counsel niya itong dalawang to, ay hindi pa sila talaga ganun ka prepared sa marriage, pero mas pinagtutuunan nila ng pansin yung wedding mismo. Kasi nga, nakapag-send out na sila ng mga invitation. Well, sa totoo lang kasi mahal, lalo na sa panahon ngayon, mahal talaga ang magpakasal. Lalo na sa mga kailangang planuhin. Mga coordination, ah, video photographer, mga ganyan. Tapos mayroon pang same day edit, blah blah blah, sa venue, sa catering, so forth and so on. Yun nga lang, hindi sila talaga, sinabi nila, mahal daw nila yung isa't isa. Pero, less than a year, less than a year, naghiwalay din sila. If you are serious about leading, then have a goal. Make a plan and do it. That's what good kings do. They plan. It will make a whole lot of difference. In 1 Corinthians chapter 9 verses 24 to 27, do you not know that in a race all the runners run, but only one get the prize? Run in such a way as to get the prize. Everyone who competes in the games goes into strict training. They do it to get a crown that will not last, but we do it to get a crown that will last forever. Therefore, I do not run like a man running aimlessly. I do not fight like a man beating the air. No, I beat my body and make it my slave so that after I have preached to others, I myself will not be disqualified for the prize. Marriage and family are not the only areas where we need to lead like kings. It goes beyond that. As kings, we are called to take the lead in our churches, our communities, and our workplaces. Remember, it wasn't title God gave us when we mandated us or when He mandated us to lead. It was a responsibility. Here are some questions to help us navigate and decide on the things we need to do so that we can lead well as men. These questions were taken from Mark Driscoll's sermon given at Mars Hills Church. Mars Hill? Something strikes about Mars Hill. Anyway, reverse engineering your life questionnaire. It would be good to go through these questions with your wife, fiance, or your discipleship group at church. Health. How much will you weigh? How much exercise will you do? How often? What will have changed about your appearance? How many hours of sleep will you get every night? So the average should be around 8 hours. On what day will you have your Sabbath, your rest day? What will your vacations and holidays look like? Practical. Where will you live? What will you do? Where do you live now? What's it going to take to get where you want to live? What do you want in your home? What do you need? What kind of vehicle will you drive? How long will you commute to work take? Or how long will your commute to work take? What furniture and appliances will you have gotten rid of or acquired? Financial. What is your job? What do you want to be doing? How much money do you make? Where do you spend your money? What insurance do you have? Marriage. Are you like-minded, i.e., do you have similar dispositions? How often would you pray together? How can you take how can you take better care of your spouse? Family. How many children do you want to have? How will they be educated? i.e., will they be homeschooled? Will they be sent to a traditional school, a progressive school, an exclusive school, etc.? Extended family. What is your relationship like with each family member? If your extended family lives close by, what are the boundaries? How much say do they have in your holiday, birthday, and vacation plans? Every time a quarrel breaks out between two or more of them, do you feel obliged to be in the middle of it? Friends. Who are your closest friends going to be? Who should you drop as friends? Which friends should your spouse drop? What things do you do? What things do you do with your friends? Learning. What area or field have you studied comprehensively? What books have you read? Do you have a mentor? Do you have a reading plan? i.e., there are any books you want to read? How many chapters a day do you plan to read? Ministry. How are you building the kingdom of God? Are you doing the work that God called you to do? What are you doing in the church? Are you a part of any church ministries? Changes. What do you have to change in yourself, ministry, and family to accomplish your goals? What top three time or what top three time, energy, and emotional drainers have you dropped? What three changes in your life would make the biggest difference? What three things do you need the most? What obstacles are you keeping you? What obstacles are keeping you from living by your convictions? Do you need counseling? People. Name three people who really know you. Then name 12 people other than your family with whom you regularly hang out with. Ask this question for each person. Is being with this person a good investment? Who are the most helpful people whom you need to spend more time with? Who do you need to spend more time with? Things. What do you need? Workout equipment, a bed, a house, a car, furniture, etc. What is your daily 24-hour schedule? When are you going to do everything? When will you do any of the things you have planned? Can you do it? At the end of your life, what kind of man do you want to be? What do you want your lineage to look like? What do you want? What does God want? Men, we are to live our lives for the glory of God. We want to live a Christ-like legacy, and it takes a lot of planning and grace to do that. So, bago natin basahin yung A Word from Tammy, ang daming points dito na I believe for bachelors out there who are planning to get married. If you want, balikan nyo na lang yung video. Ang daming points na pwede nyong ma-assess. Hindi lang sa sarili nyo, kundi kayong dalawa. Kung married ka na sa asawa mo, pwede mo tong mabahagi. At sa fiancé mo, pwede rin. Ganun din, kung part ka ng sa ministry nyo, pwede rin. So, ang daming tanong because yun yung way, kumbaga, para ma-foresee natin kung ano yung mga dapat nating makita at the same time dapat na rin maiwasan. Last section of this chapter, a word from Tammy sa asawa ng author. The past few weeks have been pretty much this way. So many things to do, so many people to meet, so many places to go to, and so little time. The amount of time given us has always been the same. It is our lives that seem to have gotten more complicated. As I asked Aliana, our 8-year-old, to pray for all the things I have to work on, she asked a very simple question, which I think serves as a good reminder for all of us. So, Mom, what's your goal? Very good question, Aliana. Kapangalan pa niya yung anak ko. Pero, Eliana naman yun. With all the things that demand our time and with all the roles that we have to fulfill, we need to ask, what is our goal? At the beginning of every new year, our family discusses our faith goals, as well as the things that we plan to work on for the coming year. Here, we keep in mind the things that we value and stand for as a family. From this list flows everything else that we set as rally cries every quarter. Ideally, all our schedules and plans also reflect the decisions made during this discussion. Ideally. There are times, though, when we do stretch ourselves too thin. We try to be there for everyone as much as possible, doing everything we can as long as our schedules will allow it. These are the times when we once again need to go back and ask ourselves, what is my goal? I am so thankful for my children who reminds us that life doesn't need to be so complicated. We can go back to the basics. We can go back to the goal in your marriage as a parent, as your child's teacher, as a man. Go back to the goal. So it sums up this chapter 9. The man leads. So it all boils to something na kailangan magplano, because yun nga, ang dami nating nabasa dito sa sharing natin na kung gaano kaimportante ang pagpaplano. Kasi kung hindi tayo nagplano, we are bound to fail. Because we failed to plan. I hope this sharing Act Like a Man by Dennis C. helped you, inspired, motivated, above all, discipline and act. Because every man should lead. Lalong-lalo na sa sarili mo. So, I give praise to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob for this sharing, to the Father Ahaya and Yeshaya, whom the world calls Jesus Christ, and to the Holy Spirit, our Mother. Ingat po kayo. May the Most High bless us all.